Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to another edition of the Mikestand. I hope everybody's having a good week as we've reached, of course, the middle of the week, Hump Day. Um, so, of course, as always, we're gonna give it a few minutes, give people a chance to pop in. As always, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions the best of my ability. With all that being said, we're just, as I said, just going to wait a couple minutes here before we talk about what's on tap for tonight. Give people a chance to come in. Again, feel free to comment and or ask questions. Um, and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. So, anyways, get along, gang, get along, gang. Each one is special in their own way. Coming about a get along, gang, get along, gang. Get up with the get along, gang. Everyone is okay. Get up with the get along, gang. Oh, oh, get up with the get along, gang. Everyone is okay. Get up with the get along, gang. Oh, get up. Let's see now. What else can we? Um, right, so we're at 2.5 minutes here. Hey there, JR. Okay, now that we've seen somebody hail Xenu and Xena, um, so we'll go over now. Now that we do have somebody else in here confirmed, I'll go ahead as we're coming up on the 3 minute mark here. I'm going to go ahead and talk about a little bit what's on tap for tonight. So again, we only have one article we're going to go over tonight, which I think will take a good chunk of time. Of course, in our continuing coverage of the whole issues revolving around Western localizers and the possibility of the introduction of AI translation, AI localization. Um, we actually now there's an interview that was recently done with one of the mangakas, Daromayan, I believe is his name. He, of course, known for doing the mangas of Kengen, Kengen Omega, and Kengen. Let's see, Kengen Ashura, and Kengen Omega weighs in on the whole AI translator issue. We're going to talk about that. We'll have the wrestling wrap up as well. Of course, some upcoming news as, of course, TNA and NWA both will be having pay-per-views this Saturday. We'll talk a bit about that. Of course, get caught up with the WWE and AEW news as well. And, of course, finishing off with this day in each history. So with that, why don't we go ahead and get going here? We'll get right into the article here. So let's get into and see get at least one viewpoint from the. As you guys, if you guys were here last night, we went a little long talking about Jamie Markey's recent reactions to these and the kind of the back and forth she was having on X with some people over it. But I had also asked, well, why don't we ask, well, I had simply asked, maybe we should ask the creator of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid if patriarchy was actually in the text and if it was even intended to be in the text. That would solve a lot of that would end a lot of the arguments right there. But in lieu of that, though, of course, we're actually going to see how at least one manga creator, um, responds to this ongoing debate here. So let's go ahead and get into this. From the interviews manga section, interview Kengen Ashura and Kengen Omega mangaka Daroman weighs in on AI localization debate, says it will, quote, take some time, unquote, before more publishers adopt technology. Article by Nerdigans Inc. and published earlier today. So let's see what he has to say. He basically feels that it would take some time before more publishers adopt the technology. Let's see what he means by this. Okay, um, with Bushiroad with Bushiroad Works' recent announcement regarding their implementation of AI technology in producing English language manga simulpubs, the concerning trend of Western localizers overriding Japanese artists' original work in favor of pushing their own sociopolitical rhetoric and tired memes has been brought to the attention of mainstream audiences, and of course, it's one of the things we've been talking a lot about. That whole idea of part of the reason they are doing. There's a couple of reasons. There was the stated reason and the secondary reason. This is more considered more the secondary reason. The idea that Western localizers are overwriting Japanese artists' original work, and a lot of fans are not having that, so they're just going more to the fan subs instead to get a more accurate translation. Moreover, this latest round of discourse has revealed that when forced to choose between ideologically motivated humans and job replacing machines to handle their manga, anime, and video game localizations, they will reluctantly accept the latter as long as the former continues to provide subpar work. Mm-hmm. In other words, these localizers, these translators, these script adapters, script writers, as long as they continue to do this, continue to overwrite the original work, as long as they continue to try to push these agendas down people's throat, people are going to look elsewhere for for subs and even dubs. People might and I think that's what a lot of the Japanese companies don't want, because they don't want, because when you get a fan sub or a fan dub, of course, that's taking money out of their pocket in essence. But, however, despite their important role in the entire affair, one voice which hasn't been represented in recent discussions is that of the Japanese creators themselves, which again is something I had kind of was calling out for yesterday when we were talking about when we were talking about Jamie Markey's response to all this. Um, you know, Again, I was pointing out that it would be nice to hear what some of these mangakas would have to say about the current trend, as it were. So um to this end, Bounding into Comics asked manga artist Daro Man, um, who together with writer um, Yabako Sandrovich is known for producing the Kangen Ashura and Kengen Omega series. Um, for his thoughts on the topic. So now we're going to at least hear what maybe some of the Japanese read. Thankfully, he graciously agreed to speak with us. All right, so it's nice of him. Basically the idea of hearing from somebody whose work is being, I don't know if anybody has, you know, um, has, has had localization issues with that particular title, but let's see what he has to say about it. So for context, Daromayan and I, Nerdigans Inc., the author of this article, have previously spoken regarding the use of AI technology in the production of manga, especially in regards to the visual side of the medium, and publishers Shueisha ongoing use of the comic Capilot automated art tool. So basically, AI is already being used in some of the, in some cases, AI is actually already being used. That's basically what Nerdigans here has basically been saying here. However, for this specific interview, Doro Man and I focused specifically on his insights into the topics of AI translation in Japanese media and the unique selection process used to find localizers for his Kengan series. In bracket here, editor's note, the interview has been edited for clarity. Again, which would make sense because, again, when you're talking about, you know, again, some of what one of the other things we talked about in just the translation aspect too, the idea of translating from one language to another and having to adjust accordingly to certain to certain like language rules, grammar rules and all that, structure, word usage, that kind of thing. Um, so, so Nerdigans Inc. Um, what are your thoughts on publishers like Bushy Road Works utilizing, in brackets, Mantra Company's AI translation engine, unbracketed, for the ancient Magus' Bride English simulpubs? Do you think more Japanese publishers will follow suit? Unquote. Daromeon's response. Quote, it seems what, in brackets, mantra uses is not LLM, large language model, in parentheses, large language model related. So its use might not be a fully AI related situation. However, otherwise, I'd say it'll take time since larger publishers are always conservative about these things, unquote. So basically, I think what he's saying there is that, Japanese, generally speaking, tend to be more set in their ways. And so the idea of change, particularly for the larger companies, the companies that have been around a while, they might not be as open to it quite as readily as some of the smaller companies, some of the newer, smaller companies might be. So I think that's what he's kind of talking about there. Nerdigans Inc. Can you see smaller indie publishers utilize Mantra's technology to save money before bigger publishers? Unquote. Daroman, some other tech innovation might be faster. Unquote. So not that he basically is dodging the question. He just kind of gave an alternate answer to what, rather than just a simple yes no. He might indicate. So Nerigans asked then, quote, you mean in terms of AI or something else? Unquote. Daroman, quote, I am not sure about the specifics, but like what if Amazon suddenly adds a translate button on your Kindle manga app, I'd like to see people go. How dare Amazon to use AI? I'm gonna I'm gonna go read from piracy instead. Um, unquote. Hmm. Well, first off, nobody would outright admit if they were committing piracy or not. You know, I don't think, but that's kind of a little besides the point there. Let's see. And of course, one, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and we will try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. I'll try to answer with that as we continue on here. Nerdigans Inc. Quote, given the growing localization discourse in the West, can you see Japanese publishers such as Shueisha or Shogaku, Shogakukan intervening to curb the problem through the enlistment of fan translation groups or leading authors to specifically pick their translators? Interesting question there. In bracket, authors note these two options make reference to the Kengan franchise's rare localization situation, wherein Daruman and Sandrovich have personally enlisted a fan scanlation group to work on the series' official releases. Unbracketed. Quote, not likely, my case is super rare, unquote. So I guess in the case of so what Kengan did to kind of circumvent some of those situations, they just the creators themselves just said, you know something, we're gonna cut out the middleman. We're just gonna go out and we're gonna, instead of having the publisher hire the translators for us, we're gonna go out and we're gonna select the translators ourselves. Which I think is actually a pretty good idea. You know, I think that if you're a creator, if you think about it, if you're a creator and you want to make sure that your work is being respected, that your source material is being respected, then you know what they say, right? Um, it's always better to do the job yourself if you want it done right. So rather than use a third party to go and find translators for them, they just decided they were going to find the translator themselves. So then you could be assured that the material would be translated correctly. Anyways, Nerdigans Inc. Asks, quote, speaking of, I never heard how you and Yabako Sensei went about setting up Kengan's localization situation. Who did you approach first? The fan translation team, your publisher, or the manga streaming service Kamiki, in brackets, the manga streaming platform on which his series is currently hosted? Unbracketed. Daro Man. I just recommended the fan team to my publisher since what they first showed me was awful. I don't know how the rest went on. So basically, he was the idea. He knew of a translation team that he liked, and he brought it to the attention of the publisher. Okay, that's pretty good. Nerdigans Inc. Wait, what? What was wrong with what the publisher showed you? Unquote. Quote unquote. Daro Man, quote, the first translation I saw was good enough as a translation, like if it was made as part of an English exam for school. But it was unnatural to read. I had to print out both what they showed me and the piracy version and show it to my editor side by side in order to explain just how much smoother the fan translation was and the official copy. Interesting, because if you guys remember when we were talking about when we were going over Jamie's little discourse with some with some X users yesterday, she even suggested that one of them, I believe it was Lunar Archivist, who was the one who was kind of showing her some alternate. Um, she went, well, if you think you can do a better job, why don't you send it to Crunchyroll and see if they use it? You know, basically, that's kind of what happened here. You know, it's one of those things like we see this once again. We saw it, of course, with Kelly Sue DeConnick, you know, in the comic scene where she said, "If you don't like my politics, don't buy my book." You know, it's kind of one of those things. Be careful what you ask for because you may just get it. Actually, basically what Jamie was suggesting the Lunar Archivist actually happened here. The irony of ironies. Oh boy. Irony of ironies as we cover all this. Continuing on here, of course. And again, guys, if you haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we get some more friendly people in here to engage. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, author's note here in regards to that last response. Comic Key later confirmed with bounding into comments that, quote, the initial translations for Kengan that are being spoken of here were not done by Comic Key's localization team, but were an AI translation done by Mantra. All right. Well, and I think that's the thing that that's one of the things that people were talking about. You know, the AI translation may be more of quite of a literal translation that may not necessarily fully work, but I think that's why Bushiroad Works had indicated they were going to use human editors to fine tune the translation. You know, to kind of fix it to where it does flow a little bit more naturally. But let's see. Sandrovich and Daromayan fighting tournament series Kengan Ashura and its currently ongoing sequel, Kengan Omega, are exclusively available on Comic Key with new simulpubs of the latter scheduled to release every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. Share. Okay. All right. So, well, I thought that article was going to go. I thought I was going to be taking more time with that article. But yeah, some interesting stuff going on there. In regards to that. Let's see. 24 minutes, I think. All right. So, anyways, so it looks like we got through that. I think it's 24 minutes into this. So basically now, as I said, we're only going to do the one article tonight. So what I think I will do is I will move on to the wrestling wrap up right away here. So as I said, we do have some new, WWE, AEW, TNA, and so of course, middle of the week, no shows on WWE, so basically nothing too much to report from the WWE. The only real thing that came out was they had recently, so Kevin Dunn had recently left the WWE as one of the producers there. I guess his contract is up; they just didn't renew it, or he quit, or something like that. So they found his replacement in a guy named Fitting. As continue a lot of continuing changeover from McMahon's time to now Endeavor's ownership of the company. So that's really the only main thing going on. Now on tonight's now A&E, of course, on tonight's Dynamite. I'll get into that real quick here. On tonight's Dynamite, um, tonight's Dynamite was Homecoming 2024, in which they returned to their home arena, Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida, in which on the night you would see in a singles match Claudio Castagnoli challenging Hangman Adam Page. You have an 8-man tag team match at Adam Copeland teaming with Dustin Rhodes, international champion Orange Cassidy, and Preston Vance, with Jose the assistant, taking on the team of Lance Archer and the Mogul Embassy of Bishop Khan, right? Basically the Ring of Honor World 6-man tag team champions, the Mogul Embassy of Brian Cage, Bishop Khan, and Toa Leone, with Jake Roberts and Prince Nana in their corner. Ricky started heading into their tag team title match this week. Collision. Half the team. Ricky Starks representing the tag team champions, Big Bill and Ricky Starks, taking on Sammy Guevara, representing him and Jericho, the Sex Gods, in a singles match. Another 8-person, in this case, an 8-woman tag team match. Anna Jay, former TBS, former AEW TBS champion Chris Statlander, former AEW World Women's Champion Thunder Rosa, and former New Japan Women's Strong Openweight Champion Willow Nightingale team up to take on current TBS champion Julia Hart, Sky Blue, and the Outcast of Saraya and Ruby Soho. And in a Texas Tornado tag team match, Darby Allin and Sting take on the Don Callis family of Konosuke Takeshita and Powerhouse Hobbs. So that's what's going on Dynamite tonight. We'll of course have more of the results tomorrow. Also in that discussion as well. So one of the other things that was coming out from AEW recently is concerns over whether or not Tony Khan should continue complaining about stuff on social media. He's basically getting roasted, and it's starting kind of an online war between AEW and WWE. He's basically going off in the WWE, saying, "Well, how can you have this guy who had only one win in the last year challenging Seth Rollins for the world title?" In references to Jinder Mahal. And what's kind of funny too is that, if anything, all this complaining that Tony Khan is doing is only going to hype up Jinder Mahal, and it's likely WWE will actually start using him now. If anything, I think Jinder Mahal is going to end up giving Tony Khan a big thank you for sparking interest and having him come back, because the thing is that with all this crying and whining that Khan is doing online, it's coming back to bite him, because everybody's basically siding with everybody outside of AEW, of course, is siding with Jinder Mahal, pointing out that, what are you guys talking about? Yeah, so I mean, Jinder Mahal recently, of course, has been being used. Has been being used recently. Of course, they kind of used him to perform almost a reverse bait and switch in bringing The Rock back, as they were talking about for the Day One event, how they were going to have a former world champion. Of course, Jinder Mahal was a former world champion, and it opened the door for them to bring in The Rock. You know, kind of a reverse bait and switch. In other words, more like presenting, okay, here's this kind of loser guy who, yes, we did put the title on for a year, because we wanted to expand our market in India, only for them to bring out The Rock, who was the true person they intended to have the return happen of. So, all this stuff with Tony Khan is going to do is just, and of course we'll go over more the results of Dynamite tomorrow. In TNA news, as this Saturday, of course, TNA will be having its Hard to Kill pay-per-view. So, as they go back to being TNA from being Impact, and you can catch some of the videos of Scott D'Amore presenting the new belts, the new TNA belts for the current champions. Um, this Saturday's Hard to Kill pay-per-view, of course, the Countdown to Hard to Kill 2024, which will all be taking place from the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada. On the Countdown show, you'll have Rich Swann taking on Steve Macklin. Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian will be taking on the most professional ride or die, I'd call them, Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers. And then in a no disqualification match for the Impact Digital Media Championship, Tommy Dreamer will be defending against Crazy Steve. As this match has been kind of heating up over the past few months here. Now that, of course, TNA is coming back, they will be certainly looking forward to it moving forward. And then now to the quote unquote main event, as it were, as the show itself, the pay-per-view itself, Hard to Kill, will feature opening matchup will feature Josh Alexander taking on Alex Hammerstone. PCO will be taking on Dirty Dango. In a number one contenders knockouts Ultimate X match in a match to determine the next number one contender to the TNA Knockouts world title in an Ultimate X match. They'll have Alicia Edwards, Giselle Shaw, Zaya Brookside, Danny Luna, Tasha Steelz, and Jody Threat. 6 women will be vying for that Ultimate X to become the next number one contender. In a 4-way match for the TNA World Tag Team titles, Ace Austin and Chris Bay, known as ABC, the champions, will be defending the titles against grizzled young veterans Zach Gibson and James Drake. Former champs, the Rascals, Trey Miguel and Zachary Waits, and the team calling themselves Speedball Mountain of Mike Speedball Mike Bailey and Trent Seven. In a three-way match for the TNA X Division title, Chris Sabin, the 10-time champion, defends against Kushida and El Hijo del Vikingo. For the TNA Knockouts World title, Trinity will be defending the title against Jordan Grace. And for the TNA World title, Alex Shelley will be defending the world title against Moose. So that's what you have to look forward to in TNA this Saturday. Let's see now. Now moving on to the NWA news, as they had the final Power, the final airing of Power, the final Power episode on YouTube before this weekend's Paranoia pay-per-view. As we said earlier, Paranoia, NWA had the Paranoia pay-per-view, and then we just talked about TNA's Hard to Kill pay-per-view. So on Tuesday nights, on last night's Power episode, Kylie Page ended up having to defend the NWA World Women's title against Missa Kate and Ruthie J, as Ella Envy was not cleared to wrestle, as she was she ended up having the flu. Getting some help from her sister Kenzie, Kylie was able to retain the World Women's Tag titles over Missa Kate and Ruthie J. Kenzie Page retained the NWA World Women's title over what she's calling herself now, Miss Star, aka Samantha Star, basically the third generation wrestler, daughter of Baby Doll and Sam Houston, the granddaughter of Grizzly Smith, and niece, of course, of Jake Snake Roberts and Rockin' Robin. So she got quite a pedigree to her. She could end up being a force in the NWA in the time to come. Knox and Murdoch defeated the Country Gentlemen. After which, a guy named Smalls, who was a midget, came. Imagine this: a midget or a little person, as I guess they like to be called nowadays, comes in and tries to go after a 6'4", 260-pound man by basically kicking him in the nether region. Ultimately, the little person got obliterated by Murdoch's partner Knox, but they continue to be a top ranked team in the NWA. And in the main event from Tuesday night, from last night, EC3 retained the NWA World Heavyweight title over Jack Dane in preparation for his upcoming death match title defense world title defense against Matt Cardona. So let me see here. As this Saturday, NWA will be doing their Paranoia pay-per-view. They'll also be having another show as well in conjunction with Coastal Championship Wrestling called Viva Revolution. But for the pay-per-view itself, Paranoia, going to be held at the Revolution Live Arena in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The card is they got quite an extensive card here for the show, as in a 6-woman tag team match, Natalia Markova, Ruthie J, and Taylor Rising will be taking on CJ, Missa Kate, and Miss Star. In a triple threat match, Rolando will be taking on Gustavo and Eric Smalls. So that's going to be interesting. You got two little people there and junior heavyweight. So that's going to be an interesting match to watch. Ella Envy and Kylie Page will be defending the NWA World Women's title against the King Bees of Charity King and Danny B. Of course, they have previously been on NWA programming before. King Bees are, of course, were trained by Jazz. Kenzie Page defends the NWA World Women's title at the event against Tiffany Neves. Colby Carino with Violent J in his corner will be defending the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship against Mecha Wolf. The aforementioned country gentlemen with their father Joe Kazana in their corner will be taking on the team of Anthony Andrews and Zion with Austin Idol in their corner. The Slime Balls of Sage Chance and Tommy Rant will be getting a shot at the NWA United States Tag Team titles against the Immortals Kratos and Odinson, having won the opportunity during an episode of Power recently online. In a television title match for the NWA World Television and World Women's Television title, women's television NWA World Women's Television Champion Maxie Impaler with Father James Mitchell in her corner will be taking on the current NWA World Television title Mims. Now, why they're doing this, I don't know. Now for those why is a woman taking? Well, Maxie Impaler identifies as non-binary, so that's why. NWA National. Now, the only reason I can think that they might be wanting to unify these titles is so that they have 8 champions and sets up for the, I guess, championship series they do, in which they have teams get together and challenge each other for future shots at world titles. So for future shots at titles. So for the NWA National Heavyweight Championship, Silas Mason, Silas Mason of the Southern Six, defends the national title against Burchell. You guys might remember him from his time in the WWE, and of course, one of the most infamous angles that came out of that was they would pitch the idea of Burchell being in love with his sister. So, just in case you weren't sure who that was, the Kids, a tag team comprised of Alex Lev and Jackson Drake, will be taking on the miserably faithful duo of Gagsing and Salvation. Tom Latimer takes on Brian Idol. The former United States Tag Team Champions Daisy Kill and Talos taking on the New Spectacular 2.0 with Rush Freeman and Slade with Rolando Freeman in their corner. And and the main event we'll see in an ultimate match of death match. Now, I don't really know how that's supposed to be any different than a death match. I guess we'll wait and see. In an ultimate match of death match, EC3 will be answering the challenge of the King of the Death Match and King of the Indies, self-proclaimed King of the Death Match, self-proclaimed King of the Indies, Matt Cardona, former NWA World Champion. Now that's coming up this Saturday for the NWA. So with that, why don't we go ahead now that we we got all that taken care of. Why don't today being why don't we go ahead and start winding down here by taking a look today, with today being, of course, Wednesday, January the 10th, 2024. Let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. History! Okay, so first off, we're going to head back 70 years ago today, as on this date, 70 years ago today, on this date, 70 years ago today, Sheik Young's Dagwood, the 40th issue of Sheik Young's Dagwood Comics went on sale on this date from Harvey Comics back in 1954, 70 years ago today. Sold for 10 cents for 32 pages. So on this date, 70 years ago today, the 40th issue of Sheik Young's Dagwood Comics went on sale on this date 40 years ago today. Moving on to the next piece in each history. On this date, 30 years ago today, in 1994, WWE held its Monday Night Raw event from the Smelling Moon Coliseum in Richmond, Virginia. The night opened up with a WWF Tag Team Championship title defense by the Quebecers, Jacques and Pierre, against the 1-2-3 Kid and Marty Jannetty, in which they won. It was the night they won. 1-2-3 Kid and Marty Jannetty defeated the Quebecers for the WWF Tag Team Championship to open up the show. And then throughout the rest of the night, Ludwig Borga defeated Brad Anderson in a one-on-one match. The Undertaker defeated Ray Hudson, and Bam Bam Bigelow defeated Bastion Booger. So that happened 30 years ago today. WWF held a Monday Night Raw event from the Smelling Moon Coliseum in Richmond, Virginia. Moving on to the next piece in each history. On this date, 25 years ago today, in 1999, the debut of Batman Beyond happened on the WWE with the debut Batman Beyond the movie. The opening episode of Batman Beyond, which was originally broadcast as a 1-hour movie special, debuted on Warner Brothers Television Animation's Batman Beyond, premiered on Kids WB on this date in 1999, 25 years ago today. And finally, 5 years ago today, on this date, 5 years ago today, the following anime premiered on Japanese television. Following anime debuted on this date 5 years ago today. Dimension High, Asmic Ace and Polygon Magic's Dimension High School. Satellite's Girly Air Force. Brains-based Grimm's Notes, the animation. Shirogumi's Revisions. And Tezuka Productions, the Quintessential Quintuplets. So these 5 animes, Asmic Aces and Polygon Magic's Dimension High School, Satellite's Girly Air Force, Grimm's Notes, the animation, Brains Base's Grimm's Notes, the animation, Shirogumi's Revisions, and Tezuka Productions, the Quintessential Quintuplets, all debuted on this date 5 years ago today. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Of course, tomorrow night we will most likely be doing the Indie Comic Show. We'll be going over the Indie Comic Showcase article from Bleeding Fool. And then on Friday, I'll have Diane Tomolovich is my co-host as we look back to January 1940, looking back to comics that went on sale from Eastern Color and Fawcett Comics. So I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow and every night. Until then, bye!